Aloha and good morning from Hawaii. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from Livestream.travel and eTurbo News. Today we're working together with the World Tourism Network, and we'll be talking about a new book written by Dr. Peter Tarlow. He's the author of many books already, and we have a guest, actually the co-author of this book, Severine, I think she's joining us from London, but I will give Peter the lead. From our end, I just wanted to let you know, if you missed this event or you have to go in between, you can see us always live on breakingnewsshow.com. They will repeat it, and it will also repeat on eTurbo News over the next few hours, or probably almost for a day, depending on other news items. Well, we always start with the weather here in Hawaii. It's a beautiful sunny day. I don't see a cloud. I still see the moon up there, but it's bright and just simply a fantastic, beautiful day here in Hawaii. How is everything with Peter? Peter is joining us from College Station, Texas, and I will actually hand over to him because it's really his book, it's his show, and it's his guest joining us.
Well, thank you. Everything here is great. It's a nice warm day in Texas. About, if you use the Celsius scale, it's about 41 degrees. So most Texans like hot weather, so we're very happy. If you're using Fahrenheit, it's about 100 degrees today, maybe 105. So again, we in Texas like hot weather. I'm sure Severine in London is probably having a little cooler weather than we are here in Texas, but that's kind of our traditional things. What's the weather like in London?
It's beautiful. It's actually a beautiful day today, but certainly the temperature is not as hot as in Texas. So it's about 22 degrees here Celsius. So it's a beautiful day anyway.
Nice.
And blue sunshine.
The beautiful in Texas, that would be a beautiful winter's day. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, yeah. We won't go too much on the weather, but I'm going to kind of introduce and then pass it back and forth to Severine, my co-author. I think today's news in Afghanistan almost sets the stage.
Yeah.
Because we wrote a book about personal resilience, and the most important part of it was how to survive a pandemic. But again, we're now seeing all sorts of other problems taking place around the world, and the fact that because of today's terrorism attacks, we're seeing again a renewal of terrorism, and that's again another form of personal resistance. Resilience. When the world seems to be crashing in on you, what do you do? And so about 3 years ago, I wrote a book on personal reconstruction, on how do you deal with the issues of legal issues, psychological issues, spiritual issues, etc. And then I thought, well, maybe we really need to go from the general to the personal. And how do people get through just the issues of, for example, taking care of children when schools are closed? How do we deal with the fact that we think we're almost ready to be done with COVID, and Zappo, the Delta variant, comes and we're right back to where we began again? And how do we not get depressed about that? How do we not get upset about that? So what the goal of this book was to allow people to have a guide, it wasn't meant to be highly footnoted and a major academic work. It was meant to be a common sense approach. How do I get through the day? How do I maintain myself spiritually? How do I maintain myself physically? Do I take vitamins? Do I not take vitamins? And then I was very lucky that I had the opportunity of getting to know Severine, who she's an international person. She's French, grew up in Italy, lives in London, and so she kind of does the spectrum of Europe. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to have these concepts seen not only from an American perspective, which is obviously out of which I write, but also out of a European perspective. And I could think of nobody who would be more international, certainly dealing with 3 different cultures within the European continent. The Mediterranean culture of Italy, the not central meaning from east to west, but north to south culture of France, and then the British Isles, who are kind of their own special culture, to say the least. So we kind of looked at this book and we tried to understand it from different perspectives. Also, we wanted to look at it, how does a male see things and how does a female see things? So that was the other side of this, because while we're all human beings and we understand that, still men and women often see the world slightly differently and through different eyes. And what makes one a feeling of a failure or frustration to a man is not always the way a woman sees it, or vice versa. I think to My Fair Lady in Pygmalion, when he's talking about it, Eliza Doolittle says, "Why can't a woman think like a man?" Well, they can't, because they're not men; they're women, and therefore women think like women and men think like men. So the goal was to combine our efforts to look at these critical human problems. And it doesn't matter if you're in England or if you're in Asia, or if you're in, God forbid, right now, Afghanistan or Africa, but we're human beings, but yet we bring with us particular issues. Now, I would say there's probably is one bias, and that is that Severine and I both come from highly developed, economically developed countries. And so therefore, we're not looking at this from the perspective of underdeveloped countries, which have some other problems, but of course we all share our own common humanity. So I'm going to pass over, and then we're going to go back and forth to Severine, and this will be the second time we've done this. The last time was to a women's conference, and that was really interesting. I think I was the only man at the conference. So I kind of represented 50% of the world's population. But Severine, it's really been a delight to work with you and to have you join me as a partner in this.
No, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Juergen, and thank you very much for inviting me on the live streaming of WTN on breaking news. So, yeah, well, interesting what you say in your introduction. Well, what I would say is that it would be as well worth of note, I think, mentioning how we started actually to develop this book, right? Because you mentioned before your previous book, it was Personal Reconstruction, that was dealing really with personal crisis, right? Which many people go through, and most people, if not everyone, we all go through at some point in our lives, which can be for any reason. It can be for a health reason, it can be for a financial reason, it can be an emotional reason, it can be a breakup, it can be anything that happens to anyone. And you mentioned developed and underdeveloped countries. Yes, to an extent, there are differences. But from a personal human perspective, if we put it in parallel to, where we actually grow up and the society that is around us, there are some threads that are very, very common. So, what happened when we decided to write this book? Well, it was, it was during COVID, right? It was during COVID. And that was probably the most striking world crisis that we've seen in recent times. And it was a world crisis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So looking at that from a personal perspective, because, then there is crisis, but it's kind of overcoming it. And what has been felt very, very strongly during COVID, and to an extent we still feel the repercussion now, is actually the fact that there is a sense of disempowerment, right? A sense of disempowerment, because a lot of the decisions are taken from our hands, in terms of, like, for example, there was self-isolation, there was, political decisions, there were many things that were done for safety, for health reasons, and so forth. Then there were loss of jobs, the economy that has been hit everywhere. But hang on a minute. There is this sense of disempowerment that is inevitable even when there is a personal crisis, which is kind of what is on the outside, what is kind of, what we see. But personal resilience is really turning that round. So there is that.
Going beyond the frustration of disempowerment to the hope of empowerment. And Absolutely. That, I think, was one of the goals of our book, was to show people that even when everything seems to be falling apart, And for certainly a good part of 2020 and part of 2021, it feels like the world is falling apart. You still can get some control of your life and take a negative and turn it into a positive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as well, remembering what are the important things in life, okay? Because that's, and certain elements, we can actually somehow control them. You know, like we can control somehow our health. We can control somehow even our social life. We can somehow control as well our finances. You know, we can control our mental aspect and keeping our spirits high. You know, so there are these aspects that, although there is never and never in any phase, even in the best period of our life, we can have everything under control, but these things can be planned and actions can be taken. So, and good routines can be actually created. So that is, you know, that is what this book is all about, especially.
One of the inspirations when I first started thinking about the book, and then Severine, of course, became part of it, was ironically, I thought about Anne Frank in Amsterdam during World War II. And of course, most people in the world have read the Diary of Anne Frank. And why I thought about that was talk about utter despair. I had the privilege of inspecting not only the outside of the Anne Frank Museum, but because I was a guest of the Dutch government, actually going into their rooms, which were incredibly small. They were miserable.
Yeah.
And here is a young girl. She's probably 12, you know, when she died, I think she was 14, but let's say she started around 11 or 12. I don't remember the exact age. And Germans are every place. They're out to kill you. They're out to murder you. And despite the fact that they're in this terrible attic when they can't make any noise during the day, she doesn't give up. She's resilient enough to find a way to develop a schedule for herself, to figure out when she was going to eat and not eat, or how much, you know, and again, you couldn't run to the supermarket under Nazi occupied Amsterdam. But she took the negative and turned it, if not during the period of her life, into a super positive. At least she halted the negative, and she refused to give up her power and her control over her life. And she heard at the end of her life, when we really pulled the diary together, we know she had heard a British broadcast asking people to document what life was like under the German occupation. And she said, wow, this book could be helpful. So it was first a personal diary that she wrote to empower herself, and then eventually became a way of her revenge against the German occupiers. And so when COVID first hit, and we were kind of all, if you remember, in quarantine, we couldn't go out and life was miserable or any place in the world, I said, you know, if Anne Frank can do it, I can do it. And what do I need? What can I learn from her? And one of the things I learned from her is you never give up hope. You always, and so I think that Severine will agree with me. One of the concepts, one of the main themes of the book, though we give a lot of personal details on what to do and how to survive not killing your kids, et cetera, but one of the things was, don't ever lose control. Don't ever give up hope, and turn anything that is negative, learn to see it from a positive perspective. And that's one of the reasons we created some exercises. We created ideas for people to kind of face those issues. And I know that I think I'm speaking for Severine also when I give those concepts.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting, Peter, you mentioned Anna Frank. And in that I could mention, you know, you mentioned a lovely young lady, and, you know, it actually brought to my mind as well, Man in Search of Meaning, of Frankl, which is another amazing book. Again, you know, another amazing story in which we see as well, because you mentioned about, of course, turning what is negative into a positive, but it's also about taking action, right? Taking positive action. And that's a very personal aspect. And that comes from the strength inside, right? And that strength inside can only come when it's very no nonsense, because keeping control is actually about having a no nonsense approach as well to life, looking after ourselves. That's the best thing, and just like, like our body is incredibly important, if we don't look after ourselves, if we don't have good habits in terms of, like, for example, what is nutrition, what is physical activity. I mean, you, Peter, go for long walks every morning, walks and run, and that what keeps you healthy. And most people that actually are able to actually then be as well, let's say, good contributor to society. Okay, because then we say, okay, we are not empowered sometimes to make the difference as much as we would like to be. But hang on a minute. If we look after ourselves first, okay, our mental health, okay, keeping our spirits high, surrounding ourselves with the right people, okay, but as well, it's our body, and that actually gives us the strength then actually to make the difference, to actually act, personally for our life, to have results in our life, but also then to actually make the difference and speak up and act. And make the difference and do activity, social activity, even voluntary activity, or like in terms of businesses, like driving a business so that actually it can employ people, or like or taking just going to work to actually feed the family, so all of these activities that sometimes we need to be invented, sometimes everyone needs to be invented. And actually, when we look at it, at crisis from that perspective as well, it is a moment of reflection, but it allows us as well to do things differently. And differently, because we are creatures of habits as humans, is never something that we actually really love to do, but actually the source of innovation, is the source of progress. So it can actually, it brings good. So going back again to the topics that we looked at throughout the book, there is a physical aspect, but there is the mental aspect. And the mental aspect, which is about keeping the spirit high, what I absolutely loved in working with you, Peter, was that we have been able to actually bring into that aspect what is the spiritual aspect. There is, I was following the chat a little bit, and I was looking at Dr. Birgit Trauer that actually put about mind, body, spirit, right? And often the spiritual aspect is associated to religion, and it can be associated to religion. It can be associated to mindset. Some people are associated to mindset. The important things is remembering actually that there is, that we are life, really. So
yes, and I think that was one of the things that we really stressed was the whole concept of spirituality. Again, that's not trying to say you have to be Jewish or Catholic or Protestant or Hindu or Muslim. That we were not speaking from the technical religious aspect, but understanding that you're part of the total world, that you're not just, the world doesn't revolve around you, and learning to appreciate each day of life. You can either choose to see life as a negative, or you can choose to see life as a positive. And we know that people who tend to be positive about life have lower blood pressure, they are healthier, they live longer, and they make other people live longer. But it's incredible how someone who tends to be negative pulls everybody else down, and how someone who tends to be positive pulls everybody else up. And one of the goals of the book was to say, yes, we understand. We wrote it at the height of the first COVID crisis. I don't know if we'll have another one or not, but we were going through lockdowns and schools were closed and people were losing their jobs and there was economic tragedies, et cetera, et cetera. We're saying, no, you're alive. You have, as long as there's life, there's hope. Go beyond thinking just about yourself. See yourself in the broad spectrum of history and how you can work to make this world a little bit better. So one of the things that guided me, in Hebrew, we have the word tikkun olam, which means fixing the world. And the world is never 100%. There's always something wrong. But you can choose to either be passive and just complain about the things that are wrong, and there will always be things that are wrong, or you can choose to be positive and say, okay, these are the challenges. How can I go out and use those challenges to make myself stronger? And in the case of COVID, how do we get beyond the house? How do we learn to think? How do we move not only outside physically, but can we move inside of our heads to see the beauty in a world that we could create when we can't create a world outside of us? So I think, again, Severine, you'll agree with me that on a basis, first basis was finding the spiritual. And if you could find the spiritual, you could find the healthy, the physical health and the mental health. And that would give you the strength to deal with the financial and the legal issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's easy to find the spiritual, I think, from the moment in which as well we are faced with death, right?
Yes.
Because when we are faced with death, we see something which we don't understand really. So from that perspective, if we want to overcome it as well, we need to kind of believe, have hope, right? Because otherwise what's the point of being here, right? What would be the point of being here? What you were saying, just keeping the spirit high. Well, hang on a second. Yes, why am I here? I am here because I am here, and because I'm here as well to help, and I'm here to actually be and enjoy, even like in the struggles, but there is always something, there is always a positive aspect that we can find about things, and there is always something that even waking up in the morning and, in a moment of pandemics, even people that have been strongly isolated, but still, if we think as well, for example, what has been really, I think, something amazing that has happened actually during the pandemic is the explosion of social media, of the internet, of initiatives, that brought people from all over the world really together, thanks to technology.
Yes, and thanks to technology, just think right now, I'm sitting in College Station, Texas. Juergen is sitting in Hawaii, which is 5 hours time zones away from me in one level. You're sitting in London, which is 6 hours the other side of the world.
Absolutely.
And it's really 11 time zones between London and Honolulu, Hawaii. And yet we're all here talking to each other. And I've never met you physically. You've never been.
And we wrote this book still together.
Yes. And we're friends. And
absolutely
know each other. And one of the gifts, not that the pandemic was good, I don't want to in any way say that, but one of the good things we got out of the negative of COVID was the use of social media, not only social media, but all of the Zooms and other, companies that are out there competing. And I now have friends all over the world, literally all over the world. I've never met them physically, but I feel like I know them. And that's I speak to people from Mozambique, to people in the Middle East, to people in Northern Europe, to people in Latin America. Wow. If I had been living in think how miserable think how miserable COVID would have been if we were living 50 years ago. What a miracle.
Absolutely.
How isolated we would have been. And children, as hard as it was, and I'm not going to say it wasn't hard on children, they could still at least continue their schooling on Zoom.
Absolutely.
And if it had been 50 years ago, they would have just been sent home, or 100 years ago, and that would have been it. You just would have looked at four walls and wondered how much creativity is in me. But we really live in a resilient age. And so despite the fact that this is so hard on so many people, and I understand that, it's also a chance. We have tools that we've never had before. And those tools allow us to move on and to maintain mental health, where before there might have been only distraughtness and fear and upsetness.
And in our book as well, we go through, because you mentioned before as well about families and so forth, and we go through quite an extent as well about the dynamics of kind of being isolated with people that are very close to us. And so what is really resilience in that, right? So the thing is that in crisis, we get always highlighted, I think, our good habits and our bad habits.
Yes.
Right? So that's what happens. So if already we are in a setting in which, in which there are problems, like even like in the family, or habits that are not, let's say, conducive to like getting on, or, with not much awareness of or care towards each other, these things are highlighted. It becomes, they become more, more evident just because you are there. And so, from that perspective, this book is as well also about highlighting those, highlighting as well good habits, in terms of, because when you actually are able to create them, in a situation like that, you're able to overcome. That's what the action aspect comes in, because that's the transformation. Because often you need to be put into a moment of crisis in order to really see what's wrong. Okay, because otherwise you don't spot it. Otherwise you're used to be in a certain way, and unless you've got something that happens to you, like for example, we see that with health as well, with people like people in the corporate world, that even that goes and they carry on and work, high level of stress up until heart attack or anything like that. We see that in many things, from health perspective, from social perspective, and so on. So it's really important, so this book really is about, as I was saying, we put together what was like very, very basic, no nonsense sort of advice of actually, getting back to actually what is really truly important. And socially.
And really, life is basically happiest when you're down to basics.
Absolutely.
And so the goal was not to create hundreds of quotes and 10,000 footnotes that would all in the end say the same thing. How could you make this in an easy size book that somebody could stick in a purse, stick in wherever, they just carry it in their briefcase or whatever. They could consult it quickly. And that was one of the reasons also, and if people are interested in finding the book, you can find it on Amazon, and which is probably the easiest way to find it. And there's also a electronic copy. And so the electronic copy means that you can just download it, put it on your, I actually put mine on my iPhone. You don't even have to go to your iPad or your computer, and you can just kind of, it's good reading if you're on the subway, on a bus, you're just sitting in the park. So it wasn't meant that, where was I? Let me go back. I missed part of the theme. You could open this book any place you want and still find some sort of value, because the theme of the book is consistent. And that is finding hope and positivity, even in the midst of crisis.
Absolutely.
And if you can do, and so the goal was to make it easy for people, not hard, but easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there is the financial aspect, which is really important, which is, again, it's about savings. And before, when we spoke last time about the book, and it was at a women's conference, we went through as well the difference between women and men. But really, yes, there are differences, and there are differences all the time between everything. There are differences between cultures, between way people are brought up, not just between sexes. But at the same time, is what is good to look at as well is that from differences there is cooperation, there is growth that comes, You know, it's the same like in a family. It's the same like in, you know, intercultural relations. So, you know, what it is, the complexity of that. Yes, maybe women address things in a different way. You know, women sometimes can be more emotional, you know, somehow, you know.
Yes, every man will agree with you on that one.
Yes, there is a hormonal aspect that we, you know, that we get, you know, that men don't have, you know, so there is more steadiness usually in men, you know, in terms of emotions. But again, you know, there is, people talk a lot, especially in leadership now, you know, you know, it's about emotional intelligence. Okay, so in leadership coaching, there is a lot about emotional intelligence. It's also understanding that, it's also living with that and getting the wisdom out of that, you know, because even in moments of crisis, sometimes we can go, you know, really low, right? But it doesn't mean because we actually get a low that we don't come up back up. It's actually realizing that's actually part of life. And I can tell you, Peter, as a woman, you know, I think us women in that, we really realize that because we go sometimes with so many emotions, you know,
Yes.
much more than men. We are used to that.
Yes, yes. You guys are much better than we are as far as dealing with highs and lows. But, you know, both are very important. Life is a very complex thing. There's no one magic formula or magic bullet to life. And I think a lot of people want that magic bullet. And one of the things I hope they would get out of this book is, you know, nobody gets through life perfectly. And the other side of that is, I always tell my medical students that everyone is born with an illness that's going to kill them, a fatal illness. And they go, what? What illness is that? And I go, it's called life. Because in the end, we are all going to die. We're given just a few brief seconds in the realm of history to be on this planet. And it's up to you to decide how you want to use those seconds. You want to use those seconds to make an impact on the totality of the universe? Great. You want to be nothing more than a leaf floating in the air? That's your right too. But one of the great things about spirituality is that we know we are empowered, even when you feel unempowered. I work with women in the federal prison system, and they certainly are very often feeling unempowered. Their lives are controlled. And yet the most successful, I think it's funny to say it, but the most successful prisoners, the people who get the most out of the prison experience and actually learn from it, and are those people who are, even when they have lost, control has been taken away from them, they find a way to inner self to be able to deal with life. And I've dealt with some women who are absolutely incredible, and where I thought, oh, this woman is not going to make it to prison. It's going to be a terrible experience. And they turn themselves around. They use that experience to not have to worry about where they're going to eat or how they're going to make a bed or what they're going to do, but rather to focus on making themselves and those around them better. And those people, when they left prison, ended up truly leaving in better shape than when they came in. But again, on some level, all of us are in prison. It's called life. How we choose to use it, how we choose to see our environment, we can see it as very small or very big. We can see ourselves as narrow or wide. We can see ourselves as having wonderful opportunities to meet new people, or we can see ourselves as disliking everybody and being very lonely. Those are personal choices that we make. And those are really, I think, the themes of this book and why it's so important. And I'm hoping people will go to Amazon or go to wherever and find the book, use the book, and share the book, because it's not just about you, it's about us. It's not the me, it's the we, which is not
absolutely,
grammar,
absolutely. And the we is so important, Peter. The we is so important because the we is the learning aspect, right? It's a learning aspect. Even like in a relationship, like for example, when I work with my clients as a coach, you know, it's all about holding space, because there is the educational aspect. There are some elements that needs to be somehow taught because it's about awareness, right? But you don't learn if you just are not given the space to learn yourself. You know, if it makes sense. So it's kind of sometimes what I see, you know, working with my clients is actually people can get there on their own. You know, it's kind of like holding that space so that actually people, you know, you can take that decision. You can actually change, you know, your life. You can actually make that decision, even like for your career or for, you know, or for your finances or whatever, or set, you know, because often, you know, what is, you know, speaking to people, collaborating, that gives strength. Just having someone that listened to you, having a bounce back. We kind of, you know, it's kind of a you know, it's further than the teaching. It becomes a mentoring aspect.
Yes. And actually, life would be terribly boring if everything went right.
Yeah.
We probably would never grow, and we wouldn't. And there is growth in struggle. And while I don't think anybody wants to wish anything bad on anyone, all of us are going to have problems in life. There's nobody who gets through life without problems. And the issue is, do you find the inner strength to deal with those problems, overcome them, and are you resilient enough, which is why we were called it personal resilience, to find a way to conquer them and to come out better than when you first got them. And so I think, you know, I really want to thank you for working with me on this. It's been a wonderful learning experience. And
thanks to you.
I got to see the world through European eyes and through a woman's eyes. Hopefully you got to see the world through American eyes and a man's eyes.
Absolutely. 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 Yes.
I don't know if anybody has any questions for us, Juergen, but if so, I think we have a little bit of time that we could take some questions.
Yes, and there have been some good engagement in the chat group. Also, thank you for both of you. Very, very interesting conversation. And yes, I think we're testimony here at the World Tourism Network because none of us know each other before March. And now we have people in 128 March of 2020 to say, and now thanks to Zoom, and I have to admit, I didn't know what Zoom was in March of 2020. But
yes.
No one did.
we now have people in 128 countries. Many of us are friends. We never met each other, and we, you know, there is a it has its advantages, of course, technology, but nothing goes over personal meetings. So I hope one of these days, soon, all of us that have been on our so many calls and Zoom events we can all meet in person. We have a beer in a pub in London, and Severine can host us. No, just kidding.
That would be amazing. Or, you know, or coming to see you in Hawaii or in Texas. I think we need to do like different.
We just have to get
meetings.
the government to take off all the restrictions.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I mean. But I know we had some people with comments and questions. You can just simply raise your hand, and I think maybe we can start with a frequent guest on our show, Birgit Tower. I think she's joining us from Australia, I believe. And let me just see if
I think, yes, she's.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Hi, Birgit.
Hi there. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I don't know.
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
I cannot see you. Do you have your camera on?
Birgit?
Oh, there she goes. Okay.
So, you know, I don't know where you got my record, and in between I was in Greece as well. So I'm obviously very interested in what you're talking about here, Severine, and I totally am online with the need for publication, and Peter, your books as well. And you will note, obviously, Juergen, you know about my book that I've published, which is The Way of the Peaceful Traveler, Dare to Care and Connect, which aligns with what we've been talking about today. And I think there's a lot of need for all of us or everyone to actually, you know, engage in the discussion on what we've just talked about. But it's, I think what I've realized again and again while I'm here in Europe, including my own personal experiences, is you know, the resilience or the ease with positivity and so forth is not as easily accessible to a lot of people. And a majority of people that I've talked to and I watch and I look at development of depression and social impact and all that. It's huge. Sorry, I can see there's a video. I saw. Here I am. Hi there.
Hello, we can see you now.
Now we're live. Now we're talking. Good stuff.
Now we see
Great to see you. I'm really enjoying your discussions. And every so often I try to switch on, but I've been moving between Greece and Germany. And yes, Australia is a year and a half ago away. And I cannot return back because of the political agendas of even returning back or leaving the country again. So I'm an Australian here in ex-German. I had to apply for residency permit to stay in Europe to be legal. It's really complex. So it's very stressful, and perhaps we could have a talk about that once. Who are we? What are we experiencing? Just generally speaking, I just wanted to thank both you, Severine and Peter, to allude to the things that are close to my heart. And I'm very much involved in trying to set up workshops and so forth. My perspective originally came from the notion of peace. What's peace? Inner peace, peace with ourselves, within ourselves, peace with others, peace with the environment. So I'm looking at the whole notion of peace. On the other side of the coin, we look at conflict. And conflict is due to value systems differences, lack of resources, and power and control. These are the three drivers of conflict. So how can we help people who are suffering at the moment to deal with all of this? This is, to me, is what's important. How can they deal with conflicts within themselves? We're looking at not just I'm a social psychologist by training, but specifically related to tourism behavior and leisure behavior. So my interest is always, who are we as individuals within the context of society? What impact does society have on us? And what potential impact can we have as individuals within societies? Because there's always a mutual exchange in that. And we can take empowerment, but unfortunately, you, Peter, and Juergen, all of us, we are probably quite strong people. We have strength within ourselves. We have built up emotional resilience to continue on with the knockbacks that we have in life on a daily basis, whether financially, as you said earlier, Severine, or relationship related, or work related, or whatever. But however, unfortunately, I look around, there's a lot of people who do not have that, whether it's in the workforce, whether it's in university, students are suffering immensely. So, how do we get the message out? That to me is at the core of where I'm at the moment. I'm actually trying to read, and see where can I now relocate myself with all of that. I come from academia before I came from industry and travel and tourism and leisure behavior and leisure. So I have industry background to the immensity, but also academic background. And I feel there's a need to push this information that you and Peter really, really addressed. And I feel that it has to do with emotions, emotional intelligence, with a realization that people need to learn about their needs, boundary setting, other people's needs, including that. So it's a mutual exchange, but you have to communicate with that. I'm very much involved into nonviolent communication, which addresses that stuff. Then also, what are the values? Are we looking at value systems, individual value systems, social value systems? We are not in isolation of the institutional value systems that, surround us. We cannot escape it. We grow up in them. We are surrounded on a daily basis. I look at Australia, politically, socially, the value systems there. I feel uncomfortable to say that I'm Australian at the moment. Sorry to say that.
They have really wild stuff going on in Australia.
Well, hello, so it's, so thank you very much, Peter. And I'm glad you sort of with that.
You probably don't know, I'm the official worrier of the Australian Special Forces.
Oh, really? You're serious?
As you
wow.
know, yeah, very serious. One of the two national Jewish sports is worrying. We're very good at worrying. And so the soldiers in Australia, they don't have to worry when they do things because they call me and I worry for them. So
yes.
I'm their professional worrier. And,
yes.
And when they're sent on a mission, their wives don't have to worry because they know I'm doing the worrying for them. So
that sounds pretty good, because Aussies would say, she'd be right, mate. They don't worry. They leave it to other people to do it.
Right now, all my Aussie friends, and I must tell you that my theme for Australia is Aussies are awesome, which is because I've never met an Aussie I don't like. I'm sure there are some, but I've never met one. So I am now become the official worrier for the entire continent of Australia. and you got
It's
plenty to
amazing.
worry about right now.
You are multi-talented, multi-skilled, obviously, Peter. I can
Yes,
see that.
yes.
So anyway, coming back to where I am, I'm just delighted to be part of this discussion because
Well,
it is
we're
close to
glad
my
to have
heart. I think we need to do more. So Severine, thank you very much for your book. Obviously, I published my book, which I hope, Peter and Juergen, that we can have a discussion about soon about my book. Perhaps, you know, elevate that to the discussion point to what you've talked about today. I think the more we bring into awareness and consciousness of this whole notion is, you know, that's what we can do. Where do we start? You know, we have to put the message out there, and whichever way it goes. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your wonderful comments. And I worry about you too, as an Australian citizen.
Whoa. Yeah. See, I grew up in Germany till I was 19 years of age.
Oh, all
And I
right.
had to come back and get a permanent residency after being an Australian citizen only, because I took my European citizenship away when I became an Australian citizen. I was 3 months stuck in Barcelona, take quickly. I could not, after it started, I was in Dubai to meet up with my son in Barcelona and travel. And then all of a sudden I saw the message by the French president on Arab television that they're going to close the border in 24 hours. So I rang Emirates to say, get me on the next flight to Barcelona. So I was on the next flight next morning, got to Barcelona, they shut the doors to non-Europeans. Right? And I sat there for 3 months, couldn't get into Germany because I wasn't a German, till I wrote to the Bundesgrenzpolizei in Frankfurt with the Kommissar. I have 24 hours, 3 days before my tourist visa ran out. I said, I'm stranded here. What can I do? The Kommissar rang me next morning. Here is your email from me. You get on the next flight and get into Germany before your visa runs out. And that's the only way I got in. Lufthansa boarded me with that thing on my phone, and Frankfurt immigration only with that thing on my phone by that Kommissar from the Bundesgrenzpolizei. Otherwise, I would have never gotten to Germany. And then I put into process my, you know, residency. It's in a story of itself. So there you go. As a German, you can possibly relate to that.
Beautiful example of resilience.
Yes. So I've been told. Yes, totally. So I can, you know, when you talk about that, you know, I can relate to all of this stuff. You know,
well, we're glad.
It's
always good to hear another person who's found a way to confront problems and turn the negative into somewhat of a positive.
To the epitome. Yes, thank you very much, Peter. Yes. So I think that's what we need to obviously foster. And I think that all of us are talking about to foster than other people is actually to build up emotional resilience. I think that's what the message is today.
Juergen, do we have any other questions?
Yes, just simply raise your hand, and then we'd be happy to give you the microphone. If there aren't any questions or comments, we're just a small group here, so feel free to just jump in. I have to push a button. It's a little bit of a different system we're testing here, so I have to allow you to talk. I didn't know that. So just raise your hand and I will immediately allow you to talk. And maybe in the meantime, I don't know if you feel like it, but Tony Ofungi is our correspondent in Uganda for eTurbo News, and he's online with us. And we actually published a story, and he was nice enough to send us a video courtesy of the Uganda Broadcast Corporation on refugees coming in from Afghanistan. And Uganda is one of the countries that take in refugees. So I just wondered, maybe you can give us an update if you feel like it, Tony. I'm not sure if your microphone is on.
Hello.
Hi, Tony.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Yeah. No,
Hi. Hi.
Thank you so much for being for calling in. And I'm just sorry to put you on, but there's a lot of news, of course, coming with terror attacks in Afghanistan and so forth. And Uganda has been one of the countries that actually opened up and allowed refugees coming in. How do people feel about it? What's the as an Ugandan and as a member of the press, can you give us a little bit of a background? What is happening?
Okay. Yeah, what is happening is, of course, there was a lot of excitement last week. And of course, you know, there was a big buzz on social media. There was a,
Okay, hang on. He's coming back as a panelist so we can see him. That's just give him 1 second. The system is doing some switching here. Tony, now you can turn your camera on. We will see you now.
I hope I can, but it's quite dark here. It's fine because
No problem.
I'm in
Your voice.
I'm in what do you call it? Mood light mode.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
So you see, there was excitement last week when social media was hitting the rounds, and everybody was thinking, okay, I'm going to marry an Afghan girl or something. It was just jokes about it, and they were taking it in as the usual social media buzz and making jokes about it. But it brought the human sense, that the impression that an Afghan, people think, okay, when you think of Afghans, they are terrorists, and it brought a good side about them being individuals. So it was all over social media. Obviously, we have some political, should I say, analysts. Everybody had their views, because some were wondering whether or not it's going to be a problem for the country. Because as you know, there was a worry that maybe, some bad elements may slip in. I mean, originally, we all have our forums and people were expressing that. The opposition candidates and should I say candidates or parties were all having the skepticism. But over and above, the public was a bit more positive, and for the fact, because Uganda has had a history of hosting refugees, because we used to have our fair share of wars, and we were a net exporter of refugees until maybe about 25 years ago. We are surrounded now by South Sudan, which is a new nation. And obviously there's a lot of war still going there. In the Congo, there's also a lot of wars going there with different rebel groups. I probably don't know if you heard that there was, in the recent past, it's the biggest, the most riskiest, it's the riskiest country to be a ranger in Congo, because over the years they've been killing rangers who are giving their lives in the line of duty, protecting the mountain gorillas. And I always get reports from the Virungas, and it's really tough over there. The other country, of course, we've been having a few. Burundi has cooled down, but there's some people, refugees that are from Burundi. So, and even before that, I mean, like I posted in the newsletter today, we in Uganda, we hosted, as far back as the Second World War, there was a big Polish community and refugee camp when I think, you recall that Germany, when Germany was conquering Europe, and a big population of Poles who actually settled in Uganda. So in the 70s, the Palestinians were also settled in Uganda, especially, I mean, obviously Yasser Arafat by then was considered a terrorist with the PLO. But then we had, everybody knows the dictator Idi Amin, and then Uganda had switched sides from the Israelis to hosting the PLO. Then after that, of course, back and forth, Cold War, we became more right now, of course, our relations with with Israel and Palestinian cause. We are quite receptive on both sides, or should I say neutral. And for the business side, we were definitely affected by the COVID-19. So what happened was when yesterday, the refugees began to trickle in. We're expecting about 2,000. So it's a bit of a good thing for the hotels because there's been no business at all. It has affected other sectors like the supply chain that supplies, agriculture, groceries, and everything. Other businesses have been really affected. So it was a bit of a relief to the hotels, saying that, okay, at least we are going to get some business from the 2,000 refugees that are going to be hosted. The American government has agreed to shoulder the burden. Obviously, it's in a sense, which is a good thing, that money will at least begin to flow into well, it's 2,000 is a small number, but still it will make a difference for a sector that has been on its knees. Obviously, I mean, because if I tell you personally, I'm also in the tourism industry, but what keeps my head up is when I, as a correspondent, we are keeping sane, because sometimes you think, okay, there's no business flowing in. When you have some engagements, you realize that far across the world, there's Juergen, there's Linda and the team from ETN that you are engaging in, and then also the ATB, WTN, and all our forums. And once you are engaged with a community like that, you know that at least it keeps you sane. Because on a personal level, I would tell you, sometimes I dream that I'm on a safari, but only to wake up in bed. Sometimes, of course, we've lost a few friends, and it's very sad that I mean, personally, you go to bed and then you actually having those kind of nightmares, and then because I mean, we're losing people. We had our bout of the second wave, although our numbers are not as bad as many other countries. But you see, we are all part of the global community. But by and large, we welcome the Afghans. It's of course a reflection that at least Africa is doing their part in solving issues on the geopolitical stage. I'm not sure whether you heard what happened in Tanzania yesterday. There was a bit of an attack at the embassy, at the French embassy. Some terrorists were actually put out of action, but I don't know if it's been on the news. But it's I'll share it with you later. But it's a bit graphic, so maybe I won't. But by and large, that's what's going on in this part of Africa.
No, thank you very much.
Tourism is slowly beginning to pick up, but as you know, once we try and pick up, another wave comes in, and then maybe there's what do you call it, requirements for COVID tests on arrival, which is a bit of a bother for our travelers, and then we have to start again. But we hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, for your update.
Good words to kind of sum up the whole thing about resilience.
Yeah.
Hello?
No, thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate it. Yes, we did actually, Apollinari, our correspondent in Tanzania, did send a story yesterday about the terrible attack on the French embassy, and any update, of course, we appreciate it. It's a crazy world this morning with attacks in Kabul. We don't know what's going on. It looks like the only silver lining here, hotels must be full. Even though they are Afghani refugees, but it's paid for stays, and that is probably a welcoming business opportunity in Uganda. And thank you
Absolutely.
for always being there, Tony, and giving us updates. I've been to Uganda, I remember, with Louis Damour from the Peace to Tourism Institute many years ago, and we went actually to what is now South Sudan, at the border region between Uganda and South Sudan, where we met with rebel leaders in the middle of pineapple fields. I never forget this. I was on the back of a pickup truck, and we had 4 or 5 guys with machine guns, and there's Louis Damour and me on back of the truck going into the middle of where I was texting license plates to my office in Hawaii. Not that it would make any difference, but it was an adventure trip. But what I got out of it, I have to say, besides interesting discussions, I love your pineapples. And I live in Hawaii, and we have good pineapples, but I've tasted nothing close to what you have in Uganda. Well, I think we're to an end of this event. Peter, what is important, and Severine, of course, if we wanted to buy your book, where can we do this?
Well, you can certainly buy it on Amazon, and that's probably the easiest. And on Amazon, not only can you buy it hard copy, but you can also download it onto your computer on the electronic copy, so the Kindle copy. So I would go there. If you can't find it for some reason, if you contact either Severine or me, or you can find it on through eTurbo News or World Tourism Network, then I will find another place that you will be able to buy the book. But in both cases, I think that this is really, hold it a little bit further back, Severine, there it is. Personal resilience, and you can see it's one flower going through the middle of some terrible of a desert. And that's really what we're in. That's a good way to summarize it, because all of us on some level live on a desert, and we're looking for wholeness. And I know you were talking about peace, and interestingly enough, the Hebrew word for peace is to make things come full circle and to find wholeness and completeness in life. So if we are able to do that, I think, we will create resilience. And I want to thank my co-author, Severine, for all her efforts and work, and we become good friends. And the book is a wonderful book, but having friendships is even more important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you, Peter, because it's been really a pleasure writing this book with you. But as well, I would say, special thank you as well to Juergen, of course, but as well to Dr. Trower and to Tony, and the stories that actually you shared, because I think that's what is personal resilience. Again, we were mentioning before the social aspect, but I think it's very difficult to overcome this, to overcome things on our own. All right. So even when we are, in a moment of struggle, if we don't have someone that kind of either hold our hands or give an ear to listen to what we have to say, I think it can be really hard and lonely. So it's beautiful. So thank you. I mean, I really thank you, because I think that beautiful stories, and beautiful stories of the resilience, but as well beautiful stories of action that we see, that that things can be changed. There is a lot to do in the world. And again, even from that perspective, you mentioned, Dr. Trower, actually about conflict, right? And about conflict, there is one thing that if there is something that is wrong, it's kind of as well taking action towards that. When we see something that is wrong, and that's about resilience, because it's also about as well, carry on with what we believe is right. you know, so yeah, so thank you very much.
No, and yeah, and thanks everybody. Just also, Peter, we forgot to mention on our original website, we don't mention very often your original website about your safety and security business, what is safertourism.com. We actually have a very prominent link right from every page on the bottom to your bookstore. And there are many books. It's not only this books, you wrote a lot of books. So if you go to safertourism.com, not only can you hire Peter to look into your safety security aspects of your destination or your hotel or whatever business you're in, you can actually get his books right on the top. So safertourism.com is another way to see this. But Peter, if there's nothing else, Peter, Severine, and Birgit and Tony and everyone else, last chance to raise your hand. If not, we're going to come to a close. And everyone who's listening and watching us live on eTurbo News now, we will repeat this starting in about 2-3 hours. And you can always find us on our YouTube channels. You find us on livestream.travel. And if you wanted to sign up for our next session on Sunday, what will be aimed towards listeners in Asia, or for next week, and we're going to introduce a new tourism hero next week, simply go to worldtourismevents.com and you can sign up for this and any other event that might be upcoming.
Well, I think it's a good way to end by just saying, considering what's going on in Kabul today, to wish everyone peace.
Absolutely.
So that's probably a good ending, is that let's hope that tomorrow is a more peaceful day than today.
All right. Good night. And we say aloha, what also has a meaning of peace.
It does. In love.
Aloha and peace to everyone.
and actually, in the Jewish world in Hawaii, they say shaloha, which is shalom and aloha, peace and love. So shaloha, shaloha to everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Afghanistan evacuees received in Uganda. Why hotels are happy. The government of Uganda has this morning, August 25, 2021, received 51 evacuees of 2,000 expected refugees from Afghanistan who arrived aboard a privately chartered flight at the Entebbe International Airport. Hotels in Entebbe are anticipating a windfall from bookings since occupancy levels dipped following the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Evacuees underwent the necessary security screening as well as the mandatory COVID-19 testing and the required quarantine procedures. Ugandan evacuees scheduled to travel on the flight were unable to make it due to challenges accessing the airport in Kabul. This follows a request from the U.S. government and acceptance by the government of Uganda to temporarily bring Afghan nationals who were transferred to the United States of America and other destinations for by the government of Uganda's responsibility in matters of international concern. Complementing the gesture of the Uganda government, the U.S. Embassy in Uganda tweeted, "The Ugandan people have a long tradition of welcoming refugees and other communities in need. As the largest bilateral supporter of refugees in Uganda and their Ugandan host communities, the United States expresses its appreciation to the Ugandan people." The government of Uganda has once again demonstrated a willingness to play its part in matters of international concern. We commend its efforts and those of the local and international organizations in Uganda. The evacuees, who include men, women, and children, underwent the necessary security screening as well as the mandatory COVID-19 testing and the required quarantine procedures. Ugandan evacuees who were scheduled to travel on the flight were unable to make it due to challenges of accessing the airport in Kabul. Prior to their arrival, Uganda Minister of Foreign Affairs General Gigi Adongo, when asked who is going to pay for their upkeep in a televised interview with Larry Madawoon, CNN, had this to say: "We know the suffering of refugees, and as a nation in a community of nations, we have a responsibility to the international community, and our indications and discussions so far show that America will take responsibility." Hotels in Entebbe are anticipating for a windfall from bookings since occupancy levels dipped following the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Carol Natkunda, proprietor of Aske Hotel Entebbe, expressed optimism that her hotel shall receive these special guests, assuring eTurbo News that they have always put all the necessary standard operational procedures in place since the start of the pandemic. Uganda has transformed from being a source to being host to the largest refugees in Africa of up to 1.5 million, mainly from most of them from South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, Burundi, and Somalia. In the struggle against the apartheid regime in South Africa in 1989, the Uganda government provided a base for South African exiles who set up a base to house freedom fighters Umkhonto we Sizwe of the African National Congress ANC. 14 of the combatants remain interred at the present-day Oliver Reginald Tambo ANC Leadership School, Kawaweta. As far back as World War II, when the German Blitzkrieg occupied most of Europe, 7,000 Polish, mostly women and children refugees were forced to seek refuge in Nyabyeya in the Masindi district and Koja Empunj in Mukono district in the then British Protectorate of Uganda. It is not uncommon to witness their emotional relatives and descendants paying their respects at the graves of their relatives who were buried in Uganda.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at eturbonews.com or travelnews.online. Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at eturbonews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
IATA backs European Digital COVID Certificate as global standard. The DCC was delivered in record time to help facilitate the reopening of EU states to travel. In the absence of a single global standard for digital vaccine certificates, it should serve as a blueprint for other nations looking to implement digital vaccination certificates to help facilitate travel and its associated economic benefits. EU Digital COVID Certificate has the flexibility to be used in both paper and digital format. EU Digital COVID Certificate QR code can be included in both digital and paper format. EU Digital COVID Certificate is implemented in the 27 EU member states. The International Air Transport Association (IATA) commended the European Commission for its leadership and speed in delivering the EU Digital COVID Certificate (DCC), and urged states to make it their global standard for digital vaccine certificates. Conrad Clifford, IATA's Deputy Director General. The DCC was delivered in record time to help facilitate the reopening of EU states to travel. In the absence of a single global standard for digital vaccine certificates, it should serve as a blueprint for other nations looking to implement digital vaccination certificates to help facilitate travel and its associated economic benefits, said Conrad Clifford, IATA's Deputy Director General. The EU DCC meets several key criteria which have been identified as important if a digital vaccination certificate is to be effective. Format: the DCC has the flexibility to be used in both paper and digital format. QR code: the DCC QR code can be included in both digital and paper format. It contains essential information as well as a digital signature to make sure the certificate is authentic. Verification and authentication: the European Commission has built a gateway through which the encrypted data used to sign DCCs and required to authenticate certificate signatures can be distributed across the EU. The gateway can be also used to distribute encrypted data of non-EU certificate issuers other issuers. The EU has also developed a specification for machine-readable validation rules for cross-country travel. The EU DCC is implemented in the 27 EU member states and a number of reciprocal agreements have been agreed with other states' own vaccination certificates, including Switzerland, Turkey, and Ukraine. In the absence of a single global standard for digital vaccination certificates, up to 60 other countries are looking to use the DCC specification for their own certification. The DCC is an excellent model as it is consistent with the latest World Health Organization guidance and is fully supported by IATA Travel Pass. Another benefit of the DCC is that it enables holders to access non-aviation sites in Europe that require proof of vaccination, such as museums, sporting events and concerts. IATA wishes to offer its collaboration to EU Commission and any other interested state to further integrate the DCC into airline processes for a secure and seamless passenger experience, such as support for selective disclosure of personal data.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
4 U.S. Marines, 60 Afghans killed in attack on Kabul airport. Many U.S. allies had either already ended their evacuation efforts before Thursday's explosions, citing advance intelligence about a terrorist attack, or have announced Thursday as the last chance to exit. 4 U.S. Marines and at least 60 Afghans were killed in Thursday's attack on the Kabul airport. According to the latest reports, the U.S. envoy in Kabul told embassy staff there that 4 U.S. Marines were killed and 3 were wounded in the airport attack. At the same time, a senior Afghan health official said that the death toll among local civilians was at least at 60, with many more fighting for their lives. U.S. Department of Defense has officially confirmed that several U.S. troops were among those killed in Thursday's attack on the Kabul airport in a statement released by Press Secretary John Kirby. The agency has not specified the number of deaths, adding that several more Americans have been injured. The casualties resulted from a complex attack that also killed a number of Afghan civilians, according to the Pentagon. The explosions believed to have resulted from one suicide bombing at the Abbey Gate and one vehicle bomb near the Baron Hotel left a total of 13 people dead, a Taliban spokesperson has confirmed. Many U.S. allies had either already ended their evacuation efforts before Thursday's explosions, citing advance intelligence about a terrorist attack, or have announced Thursday as the last chance to exit. Denmark and Canada are no longer flying evacuation missions, Poland and the Netherlands have stopped flying since the attack, while Italy stopped Thursday night, and France announced a Friday deadline. The UK and US, however, are continuing their flights as thousands attempt to pile on the rapidly dwindling number of available planes.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group, youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Air Astana receives its sixth new Airbus A321LR jet. The Airbus A321LR fleet operates across the airline's international network, with destinations including Dubai, Frankfurt, London, from September 2021, Istanbul, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and Podgorica, Montenegro. Air Astana's entire Airbus A321LR fleet is leased from Air Lease Corporation. The Airbus A321LR is equipped with the latest generation Pratt & Whitney engines. The Airbus A321LR fleet operates across Air Astana's international network. Air Astana's sixth new Airbus A321LR arrived at Nur Sultan International Airport directly from the Airbus plant in Hamburg, Germany today. The entire Airbus A321LR fleet is leased from Air Lease Corporation, with the first aircraft arriving in September 2019 and one more of the type is due for delivery before the end of 2021. The Airbus A321LR is equipped with the latest generation Pratt & Whitney engines, which reduce fuel consumption by 20%, maintenance costs by 5%, carbon emissions by 20% and noise levels by 50% compared with previous generation of aircraft. The cabin is configured with 16 lie-flat seats in business class and 150 seats in economy class, with all seats equipped with individual screens. The Airbus A321LR fleet operates across the airline's international network, with destinations including Dubai, Frankfurt, London, from September 2021, Istanbul, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and Podgorica, Montenegro. The Air Astana Group operates a fleet of 35 aircraft comprising 15 Airbus A320, A320neo, 12 Airbus A321, A321neo, A321LR, 3 Boeing 767 and 5 Embraer E190E2, with the total including 9 A320 and 1 A320neo with LCC division, Fly Ariston. The average age of Air Astana's fleet is only 3 years, making it one of the youngest in the world.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group, youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Strolling through Seychelles heritage. The Seychelles National Museum of History transports visitors 250 years into the past, giving them a taste of the island's rich Creole heritage. The National Museum of History is an adventure full of colonial-style architecture, artifacts, and galleries. Galleries show the Creole culture, bursting with bold and vibrant art from music and dance, to compositions and crafts, to delectable food. Memories created during the museum exploration can be taken home as souvenirs in the forms of a traditional rag doll, a book of folklore, bags, wooden creations, and more. One has not truly uncovered the beauty of the Seychelles Islands until one has explored the archipelago's roots. Situated in the heart of Victoria, the destination's capital, and steps away from the famous clock tower, the National Museum of History hosts numerous galleries which recount tales of the past through unique artifacts and images. A piece of history. The National Museum of History serves as a memory of the past, not only through its contents but also for its colonial-style architecture which reflects the traditional architecture of Seychelles. Originally built by the New Oriental Bank for their use, the museum opened its doors in 1965 and is now housed in what was formerly the home of the Supreme Court of Seychelles, after having moved from what is currently the office of the Mayor of Victoria in 1990. Welcoming you at the entrance of the museum is what is believed to be the smallest statue of Queen Victoria in the world in the small capital named after her at the Queen Victoria Jubilee Fountain, which was unveiled, during the long-reigning monarch's lifetime, on 5 January 1900 by Lady Mary Jane Sweet Escott, wife of Administrator and first British Governor of Seychelles, Sir Ernest Bickham Sweet Escott. A few steps away lies the bust of Pierre Poivre, the administrator-intendant of Ile-de-France and Ile-Bourbon, responsible for introducing cinnamon and spices to the islands through the establishment of the Jardin du Roi, inspiration behind the current-day gardens of the same name at Enfoncement, Anse Royale. Tasked with illustrating the history of Seychelles and the acquisition, preservation and exhibition of historical artifacts of ethnological interest that exemplify the traditions and modes of life in times past, the museum was revamped in 2018 to include digital displays and more artifacts and galleries covering wider aspects of Seychelles history including economy, politics, key events and culture. The heart of a Seychellois home. Famed for their exquisite cuisine, the Seychellois people had particular tools that aided them in delivering an exotic blend of spices and fresh ingredients. Back in the day, the kitchen was a separate structure from the main house, built particularly to prevent house fires. Typical Creole kitchen appliances such as the mortar and pestle, enamel mugs and plates, cassava grater and the marmite, a cast iron cooking pot found in every home, can be seen on display. A monumentally significant part of the Creole household, the kitchen displays of the museum holds artifacts that are still used in modern kitchens around Seychelles. Tales of the Sea. A mural of local fishermen and their traditional wooden pirogues, a small fishing boat, transport you to the days where fishermen would venture out in the early mornings for fresh fish. If you're lucky, and early enough, you can catch a sight of this traditional routine as you take a morning stroll along the shores of beaches such as Beau Vallon. On display, you can find a handmade bamboo fish trap known as kazai and even a lancive, a conch shell, which fishermen used to entice the Seychellois out of their homes to the shores or market to buy the fresh catch of the day, a ritual kept alive to this day. Herbal traditions. Nature's medicine forms part of the living heritage of the Seychellois. Being a small island nation, the people made the most of what they could get their hands on, and this included medicine. Blessed with rich biodiversity, herbal remedies which you can see on display, were used to treat all sorts of ailments. From tisanes for a host of malaises and aches, cooling balms for burns, to tonics orifraisison, prepared from leaves and roots of plants, many of these remedies are still used today and have been scientifically proven to be beneficial to one's health. You can even spot some of these plants as you explore some of the island's many nature trails. Creole art. The Creole culture is bursting with bold and vibrant art from music and dance to compositions and crafts. The artistic beginnings of the Seychellois people are displayed through artifacts such as sculptures and traditional musical instruments including the moutia drums and other instruments made in Seychelles. You can also find images and other crafts, many of which, such as raffia bags and hats, have become popular souvenirs. Living like a Seychellois. Traditional Seychellois fashion for various occasions and the typical hairstyles worn by the women at the time can be seen on display in one of the museum's galleries. You can even discover some of the traditional games, some of which have been passed down and remain alive in today's society. As you explore some of these artifacts, you will notice how African, Asian and European presence has shaped the Creole culture. Cherishing Seychelles history. There is no better way to remember your journey through the halls of history than by taking home a small souvenir. After your tour, stop by the museum's gift shop, which holds an array of gifts for people of all ages. For the young ones, pick a traditional rag doll or a book of folklore for bedtime stories as they drift off into dreamland. You can find local crafts ranging from bags to wooden creations, and you can even take home a small marmot. You are sure to find something for yourself and all your loved ones.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from Etober News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
September Pride celebrations reign in Malta, hidden gem of the Mediterranean. Malta, an archipelago in the Mediterranean, is the perfect location to continue Pride celebrations September 10 to 19, after the U.S. conclusion in June. Malta was ranked number 1 by ILGA Europe on the EU Rainbow List for the 6th year in a row and is one of the world's top LGBTQ+ travel destinations. Malta has achieved an overall score of 94% for LGBTQI human rights. Malta is one of the world's top LGBTQ+ travel destinations. Visitors can celebrate Malta Pride Week from September 10 to 19, 2021, which includes a Malta Pride March and concert on September 18, 2021. Malta plans a wide array of events to enjoy during their week-long celebration, ensuring a memorable experience for all LGBTQ+ visitors. Malta Pride Week is a great opportunity for LGBTQ+ travelers to explore the three sister islands, Malta, Gozo, and Camino, while celebrating Pride Week in a travel destination known for its 7,000 years of history, culinary delights including 5 Michelin star restaurants, great beaches and nightlife. Malta plans a wide array of events to enjoy during their week-long celebration, ensuring a memorable experience for all LGBTQ+ visitors. Lusu, a Maltese fishing boat in Marsaxlokk. Malta Pride Week has a week full of events in every category including fashion, art, film and music. Refraction Visual Arts Exhibition September 10, Pop by Lollipop September 11 and 17, Pride Flag Symbolic Demonstration September 12, Pride Beach Day September 12, LGBTQI Art and Fashion Exhibition September 12 to 18, Meetups at Maori September 12, Community Discussion September 14 to 17, Pride Open Mic Night September 15, Mixology Nights September 15, Human Rights Conference September 16, Monthly Catch-Ups at the Malta Chocolate Factory September 16, Film Screening September 16, David Bowie Social Evening September 17, Pride Social Gathering September 17, Hashtag You're Included Malta Pride Concert September 18, The After Party September 18, Documentary Screening, Pride is Protest September 19. Vaccinated Americans welcome in Malta must use VeryFLY app. Travelers from the U.S. to Malta will have the opportunity to verify their wellness and provide other documentation, as required by the Maltese health authorities, through the VeryFLY app, which helps to streamline the COVID-19 vaccine, documentation validation, and displays results in a clear, reader-friendly manner. After creating a secure profile on their mobile device, passengers will upload vaccine information and other documentation as required directly into the VeryFLY app. The VeryFLY app will verify that the passenger's information matches the requirements set by Malta and displays a simple pass or fail message. Following that, the passenger will be guided to fill in the passenger locator form for entry into Malta. The VeryFLY app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store, will enable users to activate their Trip to Malta pass, which encapsulates the requirements for entry into Malta, organized into a user-friendly checklist, after completing all the required credentials. For more information on Pride Week events, visit www.maltapride.org. About Malta. The sunny islands of Malta, in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, are home to a most remarkable concentration of intact built heritage, including the highest density of UNESCO World Heritage Sites in any nation-state anywhere. Valletta, built by the Proud Knights of St. John, is one of the UNESCO sites and the European Capital of Culture for 2018. Malta's patrimony in stone ranges from the oldest freestanding stone architecture in the world, to one of the British Empire's most formidable defensive systems, and includes a rich mix of domestic, religious and military architecture from the ancient, medieval and early modern periods. With superbly sunny weather, attractive beaches, a thriving nightlife, and 7,000 years of intriguing history, there is a great deal to see and do. For more information on Malta, visit www.visitmalta.com. For more information, visit www.visitmalta.com. www.visitmalta.com.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Passenger personal data stolen in Bangkok Airways cybersecurity attack. An initial investigation of the incident appeared to confirm that some of the personal data may have been accessed, which are passenger name, family name, nationality, gender, phone number, email, address, contact information, passport information, historical travel information, partial credit card information, and special meal information. Bangkok Airways Public Company Limited had been a victim of cybersecurity attack. Attack resulted in unauthorized and unlawful access to airline's information system. The incident has been reported to the Royal Thai Police as well as providing notification to the relevant authorities. On August 23, 2021, Bangkok Airways Public Company Limited discovered that the company had been a victim of cybersecurity attack which resulted in unauthorized and unlawful access to its information system. Upon such discovery, Bangkok Airways immediately took action to investigate and contain the event, with the assistance of a cybersecurity team. Currently, the company is investigating, as a matter of urgency, to verify the compromised data and the affected passengers as well as taking relevant measures to strengthen its IT system. An initial investigation of the incident appeared to confirm that some of the personal data may have been accessed, which are passenger name, family name, nationality, gender, phone number, email, address, contact information, passport information, historical travel information, partial credit card information, and special meal information. The company, however, confirms that the incident did not affect the company's operational or aeronautical security systems. This incident has been reported to the Royal Thai Police as well as providing notification to the relevant authorities. For primary prevention measures, the company highly recommends passengers to contact their bank or credit card provider and follow their advice and change any compromised passwords as soon as possible. In addition to that, the company would like to caution passengers to be aware of any suspicious or unsolicited calls and/or emails, as the attacker may be claiming to be Bangkok Airways and attempt to gather personal data by deception, known as phishing. The company, Bangkok Airways, will not be contacting any customers asking for credit card details and any such requests. In case of such event occurs, passengers should take legal actions. Passengers, who are affected from any such event, can contact the company via the following channels. Toll-free number 1-800-010-171 within Thailand during 08.00 hours to 17.30 hours. Toll number 800-8100-6688 overseas during 08.00 hours to 17.30 hours, Thailand time GMT +7. Email, infosecurity@bangkokair.com. Bangkok Airways Public Company Limited takes the protection of passengers' data very seriously, and the airline is deeply sorry for the worry and inconvenience that this malicious incident has caused.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at eturbonews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group, youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Buyer momentum continues for 10th edition of IMEX America. New home, same business powered heart. Over 3,000 buyers have so far registered to attend IMEX America from across the planner community, event agencies, associations, corporate planners, and independents, all with business to place and many at a senior level, defined as C-level, directors, owners, partners. The show is about connecting buyers and exhibitors to place business. The event plays an important part in long-term business recovery, providing a timely opportunity to gauge industry confidence and real-time growth prospects while meeting colleagues and partners. The show takes place at the Mandalay Bay, November 9-11 in Las Vegas and is preceded by Smart Monday, powered by MPI, on November 8. Agencies currently account for 47% of the total, corporate buyers 22%, while association buyers make up 9% and independent buyers 18%, other 4%. At its heart, the show is about connecting buyers and exhibitors to place business. This is the foundation of everything we do. We're thrilled to see such demand from the business event community to reconvene at IMEX America this November. For many in the industry, the show is set to play an important part in their long-term business recovery, providing a timely opportunity to gauge industry confidence and real-time growth prospects while meeting colleagues and partners who they haven't seen face-to-face in almost 2 years. Karina Bauer, CEO of the IMEX Group, discusses the momentum-driving registrations for the show, which takes place at the Mandalay Bay, November 9-11 in Las Vegas and is preceded by Smart Monday, powered by MPI, on November 8. Meeting and event professionals are invited to join what's being billed as their industry's homecoming event by registering for free, as usual. Attendees can expect a safe but not sterile, live show experience designed to meet current business needs. It will enable them to place and plan future business while tapping into an extensive education program based on new tracks and speakers who understand the industry's challenges and potential going into 2022. Alongside the buyers, an international range of exhibitors are contracting week on week and span all sectors of the industry. These include destinations Australia, Singapore, Dubai, Italy, Canada, Boston, Atlanta, Argentina, Hawaii, Panama and Puerto Rico, as well as hotel groups Four Seasons, Wyndham Hotel Group, Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group and Associated Luxury Hotels International. Karina continues, our partners have played a pivotal role in helping us to create a live show that reflects the current business climate and is targeted to the community's needs. We're also working closely with our new venue Mandalay Bay and host city LVCVA to ensure that IMEX America meets the highest standards of health, comfort and safety. Our mission is to create a show that's underpinned by secure safety measures while delivering the classic IMEX touch of fun, soul and heart that we know our community craves right now. Looking ahead to the 10th edition of IMEX America, Karina and IMEX Chairman Ray Bloom discussed pent-up market demand, exhibitor and buyer interest levels, changes to the show experience and more. Watch the latest conversations with Karina here. IMEX America takes place the 9th to the 11th of November at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas with Smart Monday, powered by MPI, on November 8. To register for free, click here. For more details about accommodation options and to book, click here. www.imexamerica.com. eTurbo News is a media partner for IMEX. #IMEX21.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at eturbonews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group, youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
World Tourism Network view on tourism and terrorism. Today's chaos and terror attacks at Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul, Afghanistan and the nearby Baron Hotel is a game-changer also for the already fragile global travel and tourism industry. The World Tourism Network President Dr. Peter Tarlow issues a report with his viewpoints. Today's attacks in Kabul, Afghanistan are also an attack on world tourism. The August 26 attacks on the Kabul airport's civilians trying to depart Afghanistan serve as a further reminder of how dangerous the situation is in Afghanistan. With the final date for the U.S. and its allies' departure from that country fast approaching, it is important that tourism industry professionals take a deep breath and consider the potential impact of the Taliban's victory on the world of tourism. The World Tourism Network feels it's important for this global sector not to be immune to the current global development on COVID, climate change, and terror threats. WTN President Dr. Peter Tarlow, who is also a recognized safety and security expert in the travel and tourism industry, writes, "Tourism is not separate from the many ongoing current global crises. Although there will be numerous articles regarding the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan written from the political perspective, it is often impossible to separate the world of political actions from the world of tourism. For example, Al-Qaeda's attacks in September of 2001 were political actions, but the results were an immediate economic for tourism, and the tourism industry still feels some 20 years later the reverberations of September 11, 2001. September 2021 will not only mark 20 years since the attacks that are also called 9/11, September 11, but the dawn of a potentially new and more dangerous era for the world of tourism. No one knows what the world of tourism will look like in 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now. The tourism industry is always vulnerable to unpredictable or unforeseen political or economic events that are often called black swan events. As advanced communications make it seem that the world grows ever smaller, and events become known around the world almost instantaneously, it appears that the number of black swan events increases with time. These events often influence our traveling decisions, both for pleasure and for business. Tourism officials need to be ever mindful that the currents of history are not single events, but a potpourri of events. Ironically, these mixtures seem unlikely prior to their occurrence, but once having occurred seem in hindsight to have been the logical outcome. The events of the late summer of 2021 exemplify this melange of events and from a tourism industry perspective require thoughtful analysis. Although I am writing this article from a United States perspective, in reality, many of these historic currents will impact the world tourism industry. The summer of 2021 was filled with both new and unresolved challenges. For example, the tourism industry had hoped that by the end of the Northern Hemisphere's summer that the COVID-19 pandemic would have become a part of history rather than an ongoing challenge. The Delta variant of the COVID pandemic ended that hope. In August of 2021, much of the world is stuck in issues such as to vaccinate or not and if a third shot is necessary. 6 months ago, no one, or very few people, had heard of the Delta variant of COVID. Tourism centers, like Hawaii, were booming, and there was hope that the cruise industry would soon be on its feet. Instead, we read headlines such as, Hawaii governor discourages travel to state amid uptick in COVID-19 cases, Travel and Leisure magazine, or booking Hawaii travel is now a life and death decision, eTurbo News. This increase in COVID cases is occurring at around the same time that the U.S., and much of the world, is experiencing its worst case of inflation in decades. Headlines such as the following one from CNBC, July 2021, inflation climbs higher than expected in June as price index rises 5.4%, state what any person who shops already knows. It is especially important that tourism officials understand the impact of inflation, as healthy retired people compose a sizable segment of the leisure tourism industry. This segment of the traveling public often lives on fixed incomes and is particularly sensitive to rising prices. An additional crisis to impact the tourism industry are crimes. For example, in a BBC News article on July 7 about crime in America states, The New York Times looked at 37 cities across the U.S. with data for the first 3 months of this year, 2021, and overall there has been an 18% increase in murders compared with the same time period in 2020. Such headlines around the world discourage travel to the United States once its borders reopen. The crime wave has also impacted domestic travel to such U.S. cities as Chicago, Portland, Oregon, Miami, Houston, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C., and New York City. The attack on the Kabul airport today underlines the fact that tourism now faces new threats. At this point, no one knows exactly how deadly the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan will be on world tourism. What we do know is that Afghanistan is now under the almost complete control of a terrorist group. The Taliban rule over Afghanistan 20 years ago resulted in a safe haven for al-Qaeda terrorists and numerous attacks against major political and tourism targets such as New York's World Trade Center. The fact that Afghanistan is now controlled by a fundamentalist Islamic group makes the situation completely different from other current problems, especially as tourism has in the past served as a magnet for terrorism attacks. The potential for terrorists doing major harm to the tourism industry is now greater than at any point since the 9/11 attacks. A quick summary of some of the challenges that the fall of Afghanistan means for world tourism. Travel might get a lot harder and more dangerous. The fact that there are now thousands of non-vetted people who have left Afghanistan means that there is a chance that at least some of these people might be part of sleeper cells, and governments will have to take added precautions until it is clear who is traveling and for what circumstances. The U.S.-Mexico border, already dangerous, will become a lot more dangerous. The United States during the last 7 months has had in effect an open border policy. Un- or poorly vetted migrants now enter the United States from both friendly and unfriendly nations. Some of these people come for reasons of political asylum or economic opportunity. Others might be coming for less positive reasons, and once in the U.S. they are basically free to go wherever they please. This non-stop and regulated migration has already resulted in the rise of crime and illnesses including COVID. Europe should expect an increase in unvetted refugees who will continue to make Europe less safe and less attractive to visitors. The result will be a decline in European living standards and quality of life. The Taliban's traditional source of income, illegal drugs and especially the production of heroin, will increase, and this increase is bound to cause problems for the tourism industry. Narcotic farmers will no longer have to fear anything other than a tax collector, and the result might be a major increase in drug, and perhaps even sex, trafficking around the world, especially in the Western nations. It is these nations that produce most of the world's tourism. The United States' sudden pullout from Afghanistan and its lack of coordination with its NATO allies might well result in a weakened NATO alliance exactly at the time when tourism may face renewed terrorism threats. The tourism industry is going to need to work together and with multiple government agencies against any new threats of terrorism or organized crime. The fact that currently the Chinese see a weak America might encourage an attack on Taiwan or other parts of the South China Sea. Such levels of instability can only hurt tourism recovery both along the Asian-Pacific Rim and in southern Asian countries. Tourism in this region can become totally dominated by the Chinese, and countries such as North Korea might become emboldened to act in a reckless manner. It should be remembered that much of the world's cargo goes by ship, and attacks on major sea lanes could result in increased transportation prices. The fall of Kabul is a wake-up call for tourism executives. This is not the time to cut back on tourism security, but rather plan for a potentially difficult period of time. Tourism leaders will need to work with their governments, law enforcement agencies, and their health ministries to create conditions for expanded tourism industry and greater safety and security. These will not be easy times, but the tourism industry it is to survive must face realities, must be prepared for the worst, but at the same time pray for the best and work to bring people together. About World Tourism Network, WTN. WTN is the long overdue voice of small and medium-sized travel and tourism businesses around the world. By uniting our efforts, we bring to the forefront the needs and aspirations of small and medium-sized businesses and their stakeholders. By bringing together private and public sector members on regional and global platforms, WTN not only advocates for its members but provides them a voice at the major tourism meetings. WTN provides opportunities and essential networking for its members in currently 128 countries. More information on membership and activities go to www.wtn.travel.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Hyatt boosts its leisure portfolio with acquisition of Apple Leisure Group. The strong recovery of luxury travel alongside the geographical expansion of Hyatt's market portfolio point to future gains for the company. Hyatt is expanding its luxury leisure offerings. Hyatt is acquiring Apple Leisure Group for $2.7 billion. Apple Leisure operates 100 all-inclusive luxury resorts across various brands. Leading U.S. hotel group, Hyatt, is buying resorts operator, Apple Leisure Group, for $2.7 billion United States dollars, expanding its luxury leisure offerings. The strong recovery of luxury travel alongside the geographical expansion of Hyatt's market portfolio point to future gains for the company. Apple Leisure Group operates 100 all-inclusive luxury resorts across various brands, including, but not limited to, Sunscape Resorts and Spas alongside Secrets Resorts and Spas. This addition will dramatically increase Hyatt's luxury portfolio, which is already largely centered on this market. The recovery of luxury travel looks promising. Industry analyst forecasts suggest that room nights occupied for luxury hotels across 60 major markets will encounter a greater year-on-year (YoY) increase 69.7% in 2021 than budget 59%. The greater recovery of the luxury segment is likely reflective of the increase in both demand and supply for luxury offerings in 2021, and is a promising sign for the expanded Hyatt portfolio. The doubling of Hyatt's resort offering will mesh well with increased luxury leisure travel demand during the COVID-19 recovery period. With business travel demand set to remain low for the foreseeable, this acquisition will allow Hyatt to bolster its position in a market expected to recover faster.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from eTurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Boeing 737 MAX cleared to fly in Indian airspace again. So far, 175 out of 195 countries have lifted restrictions on MAX, and over 30 operators have returned the plane to service. Indian civil aviation regulator ungrounds Boeing 737 MAX jets. SpiceJet expects to start Boeing 737 MAX operations next month. India grounded 737 MAX jets on March 13, 2019. India's civil aviation regulator announced today that Boeing 737 MAX aircraft were allowed to operate in Indian airspace again. All Boeing 737 MAX jets were grounded globally in March 2019 after 2 crashes within 5 months. India had banned all MAX aircraft from flying to, from, within and over Indian airspace on March 13, 2019. Recently, these aircraft were allowed to fly again by civil aviation regulators in the US, EU, UAE and other countries after carrying out the required safety modifications and undergoing required hardware and software updates for safety. India's SpiceJet Limited said on Thursday it expects Boeing Co.'s grounded 737 MAX jets in its fleet to return to service at the end of September following a settlement struck with Lesser Avalon on leases of the aircraft. SpiceJet, the only Indian carrier with B737 MAX in India, entered into a settlement with Avalon, a major lessor of MAX aircraft, paving the way for the airline's 737 MAX aircraft to start to return to service, around the end of September 2021, subject to regulatory approvals. In all, there were 18 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft in India, 5 X-Jet and 13 of SpiceJet, at the time of grounding. Indian billionaire investor Rakesh Jhunjhunwala also plans to launch a new low-cost airline by early next year with a B737 MAX fleet. X-Jet MAX have been flown out by lessors. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, Chief Arun Kumar issued an order rescinding the March 2019 grounding of B737-89 MAX today. This rescission enables operation of Boeing Company Model 737-8 and Boeing Company Model 737-9 MAX airplanes only upon satisfaction of applicable requirements for return to service, Kumar said. Earlier in April, the DGCA had allowed foreign-registered Boeing 737 MAX aircraft that was grounded in India to be flown out of the country. It had also allowed overflying of modified MAX over Indian airspace. Following this, some foreign-registered aircraft grounded at various airports in India were able to undertake RTS. So far, 175 out of 195 countries have lifted restrictions on MAX, and over 30 operators have returned the plane to service. In a statement, Boeing said, the DGCA's decision is an important milestone toward safely returning the 737 MAX to service in India. Boeing continues to work with regulators and our customers to return the airplane to service worldwide.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at etobernews.com or travelnews.online. Hello and good day. My name is Juergen Steinmetz from ETurbo News, and this is a breaking news update. For more news updates and shows, please go to youtube.com/travel news group. youtube.com/travel news group. Here's our update.
Sandals, the world's only 5-star luxury included resorts. Sandals Resorts and Beaches features the world's most comprehensive all-inclusive 5-star luxury package where guests can enjoy gorgeous white sand beaches, global gourmet dining, opulent accommodations, unlimited premium liquors, exciting water sports, and more. When Sandals Resorts says it is all-inclusive, it means all-inclusive in every way imaginable and in a 5-star way. There are no hidden charges or surprises, and guests' experiences are overwhelming positive and reach beyond expectations. From the minute a guest steps off a plane, everything is taken care of from airport transfers to tips from the beginning of the vacation to the moment guests board a plane to return home. The truth is that other so-called all-inclusives add on charges like government taxes, airport transfers, premium liquors, upgraded activities, specialty dining, and tipping. Speaking of tipping, here's a tip. This will never happen at Sandals, because absolutely everything is included, plus no hidden charges and no surprises, except all the surprising things they do include like true 5-star luxury. In the sea, Sandals is the world's only 5-star luxury included resort where it is always all-inclusive all the time. Sandals gives guests more quality inclusions than any other resorts on the planet. For instance, Sandals includes the most extensive choices in water sports, even motorized ones. It's all included, including instruction. Only Sandals includes daily scuba diving plus professional scuba gear, professional guides, Newton dive boats, and the Caribbean's best dive sites. On land, Sandals includes the most extensive sports like golf with complimentary green fees round after round with no run around. No other all-inclusive has Greg Norman-designed championship golf courses. How sweet it is. As far as accommodations go, there is nothing standard about Sandals suites, offering so many over-the-top suites such as Skypool suites, swim-up suites, millionaire suites, rondoval suites in the round, over-the-water villas, and over-the-water bungalows. And only Sandals includes personal butlers in their Love Nest butler suites. Cheers! All premium liquors are included all the time. No need to wait for one singular happy hour in the day. There are up to 11 bars in each resort with no tabs and no limits. At Sandals, guests may enjoy unlimited pours of Robert Mondavi Twin Oaks wines. Bon appetit! Specialty dining at Sandals is, well, a specialty. Sandals includes unlimited anytime 5-star global gourmet dining at up to 16 specialty restaurants per resort. Each restaurant features a world-class chef using the freshest farm-to-table ingredients. Every Sandals all-inclusive vacation package includes eat plus drink, 5-star gourmet dining at up to 16 restaurants per resort, breakfast, lunch, dinner and anytime snacks, unlimited premium liquors up to 11 bars per resort, stocked bars in every room, unlimited Robert Mondavi Twin Oaks wines. Play. PADI certified scuba diving, and all equipment, snorkeling trips, and all equipment, Hobie cats, paddle boards, kayaks, professional instruction for water sports, private offshore islands at Sandals Royal Caribbean and Sandals Royal Bahamian, green fees at our golf courses in select resorts, beach volleyball, basketball, pool tables, day and night tennis, fitness center with state-of-the-art equipment, day and night entertainment including live shows, motorized water sports at select resorts, exclusive exchange privileges between resorts. No worries. All tips, taxes and gratuities, round-trip airport transfers, exclusive airport arrival lounge in Jamaica and St. Lucia. All Sandals resorts are adults only, designed for couples in love. Free Wi-Fi, in-room and all common areas, free wedding for stays of 3 nights or longer, personal butler service and private transfers in most top-tier suites.
Thank you for listening to our news update. There's more on youtube.com/travel news group, or you can read us, of course, in going to our news portal at eturbonews.com or travelnews.online.